Perhaps women were once so dangerous that they had to have their feet bound. My mother said I would have to grow up a wife and a slave, but she taught me the song of Fa Mulan. I would have to grow up a warrior woman. I would be a little girl of 7 the day I followed the bird away into the mountains. At the height where the bird used to disappear, the clouds would gray the world like an ink wash. Suddenly, without noise, I would break clear into a yellow, warm world. The bird, now gold so close to the sun, would come to rest on the thatch of a hut, which, until the bird's 2 feet touched it, was camouflaged as part of the mountainside. An old man and an old woman came out. "Have you eaten rice today, little girl?" they greeted me. "Yes, I have," I said out of politeness. "Thank you." "No, I haven't," I would have said in real life, mad at the Chinese for lying so much. "We are about to sit down for another meal," the woman said. "Why don't you eat with us?" A rock grew in the middle of their house, and that was their table. The benches were fallen trees. When the mountains and the pines turned into blue oxen, blue dogs, and blue people standing, the old couple asked me to spend the night in the hut. I did not see whether the old people slept, so quickly did I drop off, but they would be there waking me with food in the morning. "Little girl, you have now spent almost a day and a night with us," the old woman said. "Do you think you can bear to stay with us for 15 years? We can train you to become a warrior. You can avenge your village. You can recapture the harvest the thieves have taken. You can be remembered by the Han people for your dutifulness." "I'll stay with you," I said. "The first thing you'll have to learn," the old woman told me, "is how to be quiet. They left me by streams to watch for animals. If you're noisy, you'll make the deer go without water." When I could kneel all day without my legs cramping and my breathing became even, the squirrels would bury their hoardings at the hem of my shirt and then bend their tails in a celebration dance. The 2 old people led me in exercises that began at dawn and ended at sunset so that I could watch out shadows grow and shrink and grow again, rooted to the earth. After 5 years, I became so strong that I could control even the dilations of the pupils inside my irises. Every creature has a hiding skill and a fighting skill a warrior can use. But I could not fly like the bird that led me here, except in large, free dreams. I learned to shoot accurately because my teachers held the targets. The 2 old people trained me in dragon ways, which took another 8 years. I needed adult wisdom to know dragons. Unlike tigers, dragons are so immense I could never see one in its entirety, but I could explore the mountains, which are the top of its head. When I could point at the sky and make a sword appear, a silver bolt in the sunlight, and control its slashing with my mind, the old people said I was ready to leave. The old people gave me 15 beads, which I was to use if I got into terrible danger. They gave me men's clothes, in armor. We bowed to one another. The bird flew me down the mountain, and for some miles, whenever I turned back to look for them, there would be the 2 old people waving. When I reached my village, my father and mother had grown as old as the 2 whose shapes I could at last no longer see. I helped my parents carry their tools, and they walked ahead so straight, their tears falling privately. "I have been drafted," my father said. "No, father," I said, "I will take your place." My parents killed a chicken and steamed it whole, as if they were welcoming home a son, but I had gotten out of the habit of meat. After eating rice and vegetables, I slept for a long time, preparation for the work ahead. My parents woke me. "Come with us," my father said. They had stopped the tears with which they had greeted me. My mother put a pillow on the floor before the ancestors. "Kneel here," she said. "Now take off your shirt." I kneeled with my back to my parents, so none of us felt embarrassed. "We are going to carve revenge on your back," my father said. "We'll write out oaths and names." Even if I got killed, the people could use my dead body for a weapon, but we did not like to talk out loud about dying. My father first brushed the words in ink, then he began cutting. My mother caught the blood and wiped the cuts with a cold towel soaked in wine. If not for the 15 years of training, I would have writhed on the floor. I would have had to have been held down. My parents nursed me, just as if I had fallen in battle after many victories. Soon I was strong again. I put on my men's clothes and armor and tied my hair in a man's fashion. "How beautiful you look," the people said. "How beautiful she looks." A young man stepped out of the crowd. "I want to go with you," he said. "You will be the first soldier in my army," I told him. The villagers relinquished their real gifts to me, their sons. Families who had hidden their boys during the last conscription volunteered them now. I took the ones their families could spare, the ones with hero fire in their eyes, not the young fathers, and not those who would break hearts with their leaving. "Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Father," I said before my departure. They had carved their names in a dress on me. I would come back. We walked to the palace. We would report to the emperor. The peasants would crown as emperor a farmer who knew the earth, or a beggar who could understand hunger. Often I walked beside my horse to travel abreast of my army. When we had to impress other armies, I mounted and rode in front. Sometimes armies of equal or larger strength would fight us. Then screaming, a mighty scream, and swinging 2 swords over my head, I charged the leaders, released my bloodthirsty army and my straining warhorse. I inspired my army and fed them. We wore red clothes so that when we visited a village, we would look as happy as for New Year's Day. Then people would want to join the ranks. When I won over a goodly number of fighters, I pursued my enemies carved on my back. My first opponent turned out to be a giant. First I cut off his leg with 1 sword swipe. Then the giant stumbled towards me. I cut off his head. Instantly he reverted to his true self, a snake, and slithered away hissing. His soldiers, seeing that they had been led by a snake, pledged their loyalty to me. The emperor himself sent the armies I was hunting chasing after me. We would always win, but I never told them the truth. The Chinese executed women who disguised themselves as soldiers or students, no matter how bravely they fought or how high they scored on the examinations. One spring morning, I was at work in my tent when a voice said, "General, may I visit you in your tent, please?" I opened the flap, and there in the sunlight stood my own husband with arms full of wildflowers for me. "You are beautiful," he said, and meant it truly. "I've been looking for you since the day that bird flew away with you." He wept when he took off my shirt and saw the scar wounds on my back. So for a time I had a partner, my husband and I, soldiers together, just as when we were little soldiers playing in the village. We rode side by side into battle. When I became pregnant during the last 4 months, I wore my armor altered so that I looked like a powerful big man. I hid away from battle only once, when I gave birth to our baby. We made a sling for the baby inside my big armor and rode back into the thickest part of the fighting. Then I gave my husband the baby and told him to take it to his family, and I gave him all the money we had. I altered my clothes and became again the slim young man. We faced our emperor personally. We beheaded him, cleaned out the palace, and inaugurated the peasant who would begin the new order. Carrying the news about the new emperor, I went home, where one more battle awaited me, the Baron, who would still be bearing away over our village. I attacked the Baron's stronghold alone. "Who are you? What do you want?" the Baron said, encircling his prophets with his arms. "I am a female avenger. Regret what you've done before I kill you," I said. "You are responsible for this." I ripped off my shirt to show him my back. When I saw his startled eyes at my breast, I slashed him across the face, and on the second stroke, cut off his head. I pulled my shirt back on and opened the house to the villagers. I went home to my parents-in-law and husband and son. My son stared, very impressed by the general he had seen in the parade, but his father said, "It's your mother. Go to your mother." My son was delighted that the shiny general was his mother too. From the words on my back and how they were fulfilled, the villagers would make a legend about my perfect fealty. My American life has been such a disappointment. I got straight A's, Mama. Let me tell you a true story about a girl who saved her village.